Do you ever feel like you're facing issues by yourself? That you have no one you can turn to, no one you can discuss it with? That's exactly what Nicole and I are going to discuss in this episode. There are issues that sometimes you just can't share with your personal friends or your family members, and you're trying to find someone that is that stranger who is not a stranger. So stay tuned. We're going to go into a little more detail about how that works. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Life. Who is your most trusted confidant? Do you have a person you can call when you need someone to commiserate and talk with you about the state of things that are kind of going on right now or going on in your life? Someone who can be a compassionate ear for your problems. Maybe someone that can give you feedback on an idea. Someone you want to bounce an idea off of. Someone you just want to complain to, you just want to vent and get stuff off your chest, or you just want someone who will listen to you. Well, first, let me say and be clear about this. There is a time and place for professional help. Psychiatrists, therapists, counselors, those are all invaluable. And there are issues that they are best trained to handle. There are topics that other people shouldn't even try to address. And I bring this up because I encounter this quite a bit as a coach. I focus on career stuff, business, leadership topics, and I occasionally talk with people about things that I guess you'd say a life coach handles too. However, when a client wants to dive into a topic outside my expertise, I recommend they speak with a trained and licensed professional instead. I'm not the person who can help people with depression, ideation about suicide. I don't even want to touch that. They're professionals for that. Severe anxiety, marital problems, you name it. It's just, I am not trained for that. I'm not licensed for that. And so I always recommend they speak with a professional, that they find a therapist or a counselor or psychiatrist, whatever. But our lives are complex. They're not that kind of black and white. Our daily issues aren't always so severe. Sometimes you just need someone who's kind and compassionate, who will listen to let you vent and get things out. Sometimes you just want to brainstorm some thoughts about a life issue that you're dealing with. And that's where things can get tricky. Many of us have friends, we have family members that we can turn to for some of these conversations. And some people are lucky enough to have great friends and close family members who really care about them, and people who can help when times are tough and they need someone to turn to. But not everyone has that. And that is why Nicole has joined me for this podcast episode to talk about how she provides that service to people, that she is someone that people can turn to when they want to talk with someone. They don't know who they can turn to. They don't have anyone. So welcome to this episode, Nicole.
Thank
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we're going to kind of dive into these different issues of why would this happen? And maybe this resonates with some of you, maybe it doesn't. And so I want to probe on it a little bit. Some of you may already be thinking, yeah, I have no one I can turn to. There's no one I can talk to about some of the issues I'm facing, so I get it. I wish there was someone I could talk to. But just thinking about some of the folks that you've talked with, Nicole, one that I think comes up is that there are things that might feel too personal or too embarrassing to bring up with, your partner or a sibling or a parent, right?
Oh, sure. There are things that you talk about with your friends that you're not going to bring up with those other people.
Yeah.
For sure. I also think sometimes people have others that they can talk to, but feel like it's too much of a burden for those
Mm,
people,
sure.
especially if they are having trouble of some sort and need, you know, to daily vent or talk
Right.
through or something, and then feel that they shouldn't be dumping that
Mm,
so
mm,
much. Um, but they need to. And
right.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you do then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I have some friends I can turn to and talk with about stuff, but I know they don't want to hear from me every single day. I mean, they've got lives, they have work, they got their jobs. And so they're just not there or available. And I, like you said, I feel like I'm be burdening those people and even family members. It's like, sure, maybe we talk once a week and we can kind of catch up on stuff and vent a little bit, but I can't harass my brother every single day. It's like he's got a family, he's got work. So yeah, what do you do about that? Um, that's totally a good example. Yeah. And I know in my own life, there are things that I just don't think I feel comfortable sharing with some friends and family members.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I think that concept of people kind of gossiping about your dirty laundry behind your
Mm-hmm,
back.
mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want it to come back just because you're working through some things, and you might say some things that later you wish you hadn't said.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you are talking to someone who is your friend or your family member, it's probably not going to go away. They
Right. Yeah.
they might bring it up later. I think we've talked about this before about uh, marital issues
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that, like, our advice, I mean, our kids aren't married yet, but our advice to them is, don't tell us that stuff, because if you guys are having a problem and you bring it to us and then you go as a married couple and fix that, we weren't part of the fixing, and we won't forget it if
Right.
we feel that
Yeah.
somebody is, mistreating or, not being the best partner to our child. So those kind of things are very tricky to talk about with your friends and family, because they won't forget. And if it's not, they're not the person in the relationship, it's harder for them to forgive as well.
Yeah. I know I've been careful about that. I kind of learned my lesson with an earlier relationship where, I shared stuff I was upset about or worried about. And I definitely could tell my family cooled off
Mm-hmm.
with this person and was holding it against them and bringing it up in conversations. Well, I heard you did this. And it's like, oh my God, why,
Mm-hmm.
why did you do that? And, yeah, you're going to work through things. And so maybe you don't want the people who are in your inner circle of friends and family to know about the stuff you're working through. And that's why people do have therapists and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said earlier, not everything is worth the call to a therapist and the cost of a therapist. Therapists and psychiatrists and stuff like that can get kind of expensive. That definitely happens. I think the other thing I think we've talked about is worrying that someone's going to keep stuff confidential.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that can happen with friends. So you have friends who are really close and you trust them and you share a lot with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've all had that friend who can't quite keep their mouth shut.
Oh, sure.
They say stuff or they forget. They're like, oh, I thought it was okay for me to bring that up. And they bring it up to people. Even if some folks that you say, hey, keep this between us, sometimes they just can't help it. They spill. And
Yeah, and sometimes
not cool.
not vindictively or anything, just not even thinking that that was something that they shouldn't repeat.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I was thinking about this and the the way that you provide this and talk with people. And there's a lot of people that turn to Nicole and have these conversations and have been for years, many, many years. I mean, we've been together for like 35 years now, I think, if you include our dating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've seen this, that she's the kind of person that people confide in and turn to because she's really good at listening and being compassionate and providing good feedback because she's smart and she's had a lot of good things happen in her life, so she knows how to work through things, and they know they can trust her, and there's not going to be any judgment, which I think is rare. I think it's hard for people to listen and not pass judgment when someone's sharing something that's really personal or maybe a little tricky to bring up, right?
It also, related to that, reminded me of the very deep and meaningful conversation that I had with a woman on an airplane, a complete stranger, and she and I had worked through some stuff. We both had things that we needed to get off our chest. A long plane ride, complete stranger,
Yeah.
and both of us felt much better afterward.
Isn't that funny? I call that the stranger who doesn't feel like a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that magical combination that it is a stranger. So it's not a family member. It's not a close friend. You're not going to see them all the time. You may never see them in person, ever. I mean, I know a lot of the people that I coach, I'd say 90% of them I've never met in person.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had really open conversations. And it's funny that you said that because I include that as an example in the newsletter. If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me, we always provide more information, links, show notes, that kind of stuff in the newsletter. It goes along with this podcast. But I mentioned a seatmate on a long flight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A bartender is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Bartenders know that everybody confides in them and shares their miseries with them and feels pretty safe, and they may not even know the bartender's name. I think a lot of us have experienced this with people that may be in a completely different country around the world, and it's, the online chat where people are opening up about stuff. I'm in a group of people who talk about stuff going on health-wise with their hearts, and people really open up.
Mm-hmm.
And they like the support, and they don't even know these people, but it feels safe. And it may not feel as safe in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't want everybody at work knowing you have a heart condition. Maybe you're not ready to break it to your family that you have a heart condition or you've got cancer or whatever it might be. And so that's why I think a lot of this really helps. It's easier to open up to that stranger that's not a stranger. It's kind of funny.
And I think that person who is not intimately involved in your life is able to have a level of objectivity,
right?
that people who are close to you, they just can't have.
Nope.
I mean, even if they're trying, it's just impossible because of their relationship with you. And so if you're struggling with something and trying to articulate it, they're always going to receive what you say through the lens of their own relationship with you.
Mm-hmm,
and having an outsider, I think, can be really, really helpful because of their objectivity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because we all know this, and maybe we'll kind of start getting into this too, but what kind of issues people deal with where they're like, who can I talk to about this? I mean, everybody has probably at one point or another had a problem or an issue with one of their siblings. So if you try to talk to another sibling about that or your parents about that, like you said, they can't be objective. Mm-mm. They can't. They have a relationship with that person.
And a stake in how it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know there's been times it's like, hey, I can't talk to my mom about this problem I'm having with a sibling because my mom's like, we just want you to get along.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong.
You're all my favorites.
You're all good. You're all my favorites. Yeah. Uh, and I mean, this has definitely happened in my family where people are like, oh, I'm upset with mom or dad about this thing. And you think that you're having a safe conversation. Then you go have a call with your mom or dad and they're like, oh, I heard you're upset with me. It's like, yeah, you weren't supposed to hear that. Okay,
Mm-mm.
great. Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, people can't help themselves. That's a topic I think is of kind of one that people are always dealing with.
Family
Family
relationships.
relationships, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know you've talked with some folks, and obviously we're not going to mention names, we're not going to get into specifics because this is confidential. Um, but I know you've talked with folks who are having issues with one of their parents, right? That there's
Yes.
something going on and they're trying to figure out how to work through it and why they might be behaving that way. And you've listened and you've been supportive and said, hey, maybe you could try this next time or have this conversation next time. But that
Y-
seems to be one that comes up a lot.
yes. I mean, people have definitely, what do I want to say? Their adult lives are impacted by their childhoods.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And sometimes they can talk to their parents about how their parents' actions affected them as children, and that can be okay. And in other situations, parents are not receptive to those conversations or working through them. And as an adult, you have to work that out on your own, and decide how you're going to interact with the parent going forward. And yeah, just even having just somebody to bounce off. Do you think if I did this,
Right. Yeah.
that's a good thing? Or should I just, forget about it? It's nice to talk to somebody about those options and feelings of guilt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you calling enough?
Oh boy. Yeah.
um, all those things that I think are kind of universal. Even if you have a great relationship with your parents, I think there are some things that we all share of, am I doing enough? Am I doing,
Mm-hmm. Especially as our parents are getting older and yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's challenging. I mean, the dynamic of parent and child is, it can be challenging in both directions.
Hmm.
And I talk about this often, but Nicole has amazing relationships with our children. So we have three children, two boys and a daughter. And they talk with her sometimes almost every day, right?
It
Uh,
depends on how things are
yeah.
going, right?
And they feel comfortable discussing stuff with her. And so that's the other side of this is if you're listening and you're a parent, the challenges you might be feeling having conversations with your kids as they're getting older, because when they're little, it's got its own challenges, but it's different. But as they become teens and then they go into their 20s, 30s, and beyond, that can be a challenging relationship to figure out the dynamic of how this is changing as they become adults and have autonomy. And
And sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut
yeah,
when you're
it's not easy.
when you're talking to your young adult
Yeah, yeah,
children, but you still have the things to say, but just don't say them to your kids.
right, right.
That's when you talk to someone else
Yeah,
about
yeah,
how
yeah.
you're feeling, about what they're doing, about the decisions that they're making, about, if you have concerns, you don't
Right,
need
yeah.
to tell them all of the things that you're thinking. Some of it you just need to listen and let them figure it out for
It's
themselves.
so hard.
Yeah,
It,
finding that balance.
yeah,
It's very hard.
because you want to be there for them, but you have to resist the urge to tell them what to do, even if you think you know exactly what they need to do. Um, you've often been better at this, I think, than I have, of saying they've got to learn how to do this. And if it's not like a horribly dangerous, traumatic thing, that's like, hey, they might fail doing this. Um, but they have to learn. They have to find their way and try and not just be told every step of the way what to do. And it's
I
hard.
mean, a lot of times they don't want you to tell them what to do. just like every other human being, I think we just want to be heard.
Right.
We don't
Yeah.
want, we want to say something, and whatever our problem is that we're dealing with, we don't necessarily want someone to give us the answer or the solution. We just want to know that they're listening and we can figure
Hmm.
it out on our own. And I don't think that's limited to children,
Oh,
you
no,
know.
no. No, I know that I run into this all the time when I'm talking with Nicole about problems or our kids about problems. I go into solution mode, and I know a lot of people are guilty of this. It's like, okay, here's what we need to do. you know,
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time, and I'm learning slowly, even as I'm getting to this progressed age. I'm learning to let me just listen. I'm not going to jump right into solution mode. It's hard. I like to help. I like to solve problems, and so it's hard. But that's important, and that's another thing that's good to talk with someone about who isn't so close to it, because you're gonna feel frustrated. You're gonna be the big thing you're gonna feel is like, is this normal? Should I be concerned?
Mm-hmm.
Should I be worried? How bad is this? Is everybody else going through this with their kids? Do other kids go through this? Do they come out the other side? There's a whole lot of stuff, and maybe it's part of the American culture. I don't know. I know it's a problem in other cultures too. I shouldn't say it's just an American problem. But we go through life thinking most of the time, is anyone else dealing with this? Am I out of the ordinary? Uh, is this okay? You don't know. And some stuff you bring up and you'll ask, and other stuff you just kind of suffer with it. And this is one of those things where it's like, is everybody else going through this with their kids? I'm too embarrassed to bring it up, or maybe I'm the only one failing. It's just hard, but it's nice to
And
talk to someone
yeah, I
about
don't
it.
think it's limited to parent-child stuff. I think just in life in general, we're all wondering, are we good enough? Are we doing it right?
Yeah,
Are, I
yeah.
mean,
Can my
I,
relationship recover from this?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's just human. Just like we just have this human need for connection.
sure. Yeah,
And that is through like the shared things that we're experiencing. Um, it creates connection.
yeah, yeah. It comes up with romantic relationships too, right? Spouses, partners, dating, and I know that's another conversation that you often get pulled into is the challenges of dating and trying to in relationships and trying to understand what's going on. Why are they acting this way? Should I be concerned? Does this mean that they no longer love me? How do
Or
I respond to this?
even people in long-term relationships, the relationships change over time. That just happens.
Hmm.
And I've definitely had people talk to me about, is that normal? And should I do something specific to get it back to the way it was, or is this where,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or do we just continue in this direction? And yeah, I think it's not really, I think about like the questions that people ask me, they aren't really questions that they want an answer to,
Sure.
but it is absolutely that through the talking and through me, I don't know, it's just unconsciously kind of mirroring back,
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah.
is this
Or
what you're
clarifying
saying? Is it,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
that getting down to the heart of it, that they usually realize what it is that they want to do, or what it is that is wrong, or what it is they want to fix,
Right. Yeah.
um, or realize that it's perfectly fine just the way it is. I just needed to get it off my chest. I don't need to do anything.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
it's
it happens with career stuff
self-realization.
too. I
Yeah.
mean, I get into this where people are like, should I take this job or that job? And it's like, I cannot make that decision for you. I'll ask questions and I'll try to get the clarification and say, okay, compare it this way and this way, but I want them to get to the point where they recognize what the decision is because they have to live with it. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same with this. If someone's like, should I break up with my boyfriend? It's like, I'm not going to tell you to do that or not do that.
Yeah.
It's something you're going to have to work through and come to a conclusion, but maybe talking with you helps them think about it in different ways or ask different questions of themselves or even the partner. And then they'll figure it out, and they have to own that decision. I mean, that's the reality of this. And I know people sometimes wish someone could just give them the perfect answer, but that's not how it works. There is no perfect answer, and you have to live with the outcome. So it has to be you. It really does. I think the other thing that happens, so we're in our 50s, and life changes as you get older. I don't know how old you are, the folks who are listening, but I know when I was younger, sometimes you feel like you're going to be who you are and physically who you are forever. Of course you feel that way. 20s and 30s. But then you start getting older and things start changing in your physical self and other stuff. And there's that whole thing again where it's like, is this normal? Does everyone go through this? Is everyone else feeling this? And it feels personal. It feels embarrassing. And I remember talking with you about this, and it's like, why didn't my dad tell me about this? He's like,
Sure.
Guess what's going to hit and happen when you're 40, when you're 50? Like, and nobody does. Nobody talks about this because everybody acts like they're not comfortable discussing it. And I think that's also useful, is just dealing with stuff yourself. It's like, I'm getting older, I'm feeling this way, or I'm tired all the time. Is this normal? Should I always be feeling tired? Are these pains normal? Does everyone else feel this when they get up in the morning? You name it. And I think having someone who's gone down that path, is a little farther ahead of the path, that can be helpful, just to have someone to turn to. And I think we've lost this in our society.
Sure. We're becoming increasingly fragmented
Yeah.
separated. Absolutely.
Because I know I wasn't near my
the
grandparents,
connection.
so I can't turn to my grandparents, and my grandparents passed away early. So it's, as I entered my 40s, I couldn't talk to my grandfather or grandmother and say, hey, is this normal? Does this happen? Does everybody feel this way? They were gone. And a lot of people are geographically separated from grandparents and parents. And it's hard. It's hard to have these conversations. So I think that's another thing that is super helpful. I have my own version of that, where people get to the end of their career and they're like, does everybody feel burned out at this point and just done? Is it normal, or should I feel like, oh, I'm going to keep going in this job until I'm 70, 80 years old? And I think just knowing that, no, other people do feel this way. No, there is a different way to go forward. There's a different solution. You don't have to die at your desk, that kind of conversation. And people are like, oh, okay, I thought I was the only one that felt this way. And I think it applies to your personal life as you get older too. Any other stuff that's come up? I mean, we've talked about a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I mean, people usually reach out when they're going through some type of rough spot.
Sure.
Whatever that rough spot is. It could be something with relationships. It could be, something with, their neighbors, or the world in general, or like you said, something feeling just, burnt out, or whatever's causing the roughness, aging, like you said. So it just helps. Sometimes when you're in the rough spot, it feels that, okay, this is just, I'm always going to be, I'm always going to be struggling. And sometimes it helps an outsider with just a very simple reminder of something that you already know, but have forgotten because you're in the rough spot that those things pass.
Right. Yeah.
You will not always feel this way. It might be tomorrow, it might be next week, but you will feel differently. You will get through this in some way. And just having an outsider, having someone who is not experiencing your life right that minute, it can be helpful just to give you that different perspective to get you out of that rough spot.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone feels like they could benefit from this type of call, you can get in touch with Nicole to have a free initial call, and just there's no risk. It's a easy, free thing to try out. If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me. This is issue 131. Do you have compassionate conversations? And so it's got some of the notes from this. And I've got a couple of links and buttons where you can book a free call. But you could also go directly to NicoleListens.com. NicoleListens. NicoleListens.com. And book that free call. And so it's a good way to kind of try it before you buy it. And you got nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing. And Nicole would love to hear from you.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with pursuing the life of your dreams so you can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled.